Welcome to the National Women's Fitness Academy podcast. We're here to talk about women's health, female hormones, body image, and all things health and fitness.
Hello, girls, and welcome back to another episode of the Women's Fitness Academy's podcast. I'm your host, Siggy, and if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please make sure that you haven't missed out. And if you haven't subscribed to our podcasts, please make sure that you do so you don't miss out another episode. Guys, I'm super excited for today's conversation because I have a super woman of a powerhouse, multifaceted. Oh my God, I'm just going to literally put you on a fucking pedestal right now. I have Taliha with me. And for those who don't know Taliha, she is a Melbourne-based businesswoman who has been in industry. Well, actually, you've been training since 2013. Correct me if I'm wrong, but your passion for fitness has led you to bodybuilding, doing a lot of modeling, promo work, but now has also led you to building your own business, not only a facial clinic, but also a clothing brand. And you've also been in multiple fitness competitions. And I want to dive in to ask you, how did this all come about?
Oh, that's a really good question. Thanks for the introduction, by the way.
You're welcome.
It made me feel so good. I first started training, back around 2013, 2014. I actually was working at an Anytime Fitness as I was studying nursing. And the competition stuff started when I was working there and I saw someone that did compete. And I admired her so much for not just the fact that she showed up every day with her training and she was so disciplined, but her physique as well. She was just very fit. I think she was prepping for an ICN show, which was INBA back in the day. And she just looked healthy. She looked great. She looked dedicated. And that was really inspiring to me. And then I started watching some of the Olympia shows on YouTube when they were streaming. May not have been YouTube, but I just remember streaming them and being, just admiring the life of the bodybuilders, I guess. And I think the training aspect gave me something to focus on outside of nursing study as well. Yeah.
I love that. It's so interesting how we start creating these habits, different ways of living because, you were doing nursing. And I remember I was a photographer many years ago, and that's how I started into the fitness and health industry. And it just shows you different stages of lives just pull us to a different way. And once you found your love to bodybuilding, you then started competing as well. Is that right?
Yes. I think I just saw someone do something and thought, hey, I could do that. I think my mindset around that time too was I was still trying to shift out of the self-doubt sort of, restriction with my mindset. And I thought, what better way to challenge myself? And I'd also come from a competing background with Taekwondo. So I was kind of used to the athlete disciplines and training a few times a week. And I think that's what drew me in. So that kind of made it easier, I guess. I was like, cool, going to train a few times a week. And then decided to compete after that. So I did spend my first 12 months kind of dabbling in the training aspect and then found a coach after that. So did you find a coach as well quite early on, or did you sort of start doing your own thing for a while and then decided?
So I did my own thing for too long. And I guess
right, newbie games.
Yeah, literally. I was one of the people who would go on bodybuilding.com and I would print out
all been there.
bodybuilding workouts and their food. And there was one particular woman, I can't remember her name, but she was fascinating. And I'm pretty sure she competed in Olympia as well. And I was just like, I'm going to be like her. And mind you, I didn't realize how dedicated she was to her training, though. After not seeing results from that, I was then going on YouTube and downloading and watching other people's workouts. I was like, cool, I'll do this. And I dabbled into my own training. I did cardio and all this stuff. And then it wasn't probably till about 2 or 3 years later. And then I hired my first coach.
It can sometimes take us a while to admit that we do need that extra help.
Definitely.
We just need You'll figure it out. But I think that's how you know when you start to shift through a different phase of your fitness journey as well. It's like something pushes you to need to get a coach, whether that's a lack of knowledge around a certain topic or feeling like you need to do that in order to reach the next level. And I think it's okay to actually spend a lot of time doing things yourself. That's how you start to discover things about your body and your physique and what you do like, what you don't like. And I think also too, that's where maybe spending a bit of time in the gym first, it forces you to be in a situation to learn, right? Like when we have someone telling us what we should be doing, it's a bit of a comfort zone because we've been told what to do. Whereas if you go in the gym, okay, cool, you've got gym anxiety, you don't know what you're doing, but it forces you to be in a position to learn, forces you to be uncomfortable.
100%. I'm so glad you brought this up because there's this debate going on right now on Instagram, and I'm not sure if you've noticed this, but there's one party saying that everyone has to have a coach all time, every time of, their career or fitness path. And then there's other coaches who, to be honest, I agree with them, is there's always an opportunity for you to do it on yourself. And there's always a time and place to actually hire a coach. And like you said, if we're constantly working with someone, how can we build the self-trust within ourselves to be able to do the hard stuff? And you also made a good point about that before, where when you started your journey, you had that self-doubt when you started.
Absolutely. And it's funny looking back too, because I did spend a lot of time figuring things out myself, but that self-doubt was actually amplified by the help that I was also receiving too, because I hadn't spent enough time figuring out myself, figuring out what I do like, what I don't like. So I was doing things that someone else wanted me to do, uncertain if I should be doing them. So this is a really good topic. I also am someone that is more on I think you need to spend a good amount of time without a coach, because that's personally when I made most of my progress. I will say it's when I made most of my progress, and I learned the most about my physique. And because I have a back issue as well, I have more confidence in myself now and what exercises work best for me, because I did spend that time training myself. So I do think that coaches problem solve, right? So if we have a specific problem that we need to solve within our fitness and health journey, that's where a coach can come in and help with those things. But yeah, I just think it really depends on where you're at in your journey at that time.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And there's always context to it as well. We're not going to badmouth people for wanting to be with coaches and mentors all the time. Like if that's what helps you to grow even better and excel within your fitness or career, like go for gold. However, as we mentioned before, too often people will rely on the one person or try and hold their hand throughout the whole journey and then realize, oh, wow, like I've been relying on this person for this whole time. How can I start building my own trust or my own beliefs of, either overcoming an injury or training independently?
Actually, it's really interesting you say this, because if a person has gone through a long period of coaching with someone and they're still coming out of that process, say they leave their coach and they're coming out of that process being like, what do I do now? I don't know what I'm doing. That highlights to me the type of coaching that they were receiving. Is that actually appropriate to help them long term? Are they being spoon-fed, or are they being taught valuable skills that they can apply to their fitness journey long after that coach? And that is kind of where I was going with personal training. Some clients was, I understand one day you're going to walk away from this, but I want you to walk away from, training with me and have these skills and ability to train yourself. This isn't about me spoon feeding you, it's about setting you up for your journey long term. So I think that's also going to highlight the different type of coaches where they give you a plan, or they're giving you strategies and skills and knowledge, right? There's a big difference between those two types of coaching, I believe. And I know which one you are. You are amazing at what you do, but how do you find coaching your clients?
I absolutely agree with that. And you know what? I love working with my clients long-term because we find ourselves reaching different seasons of their lives. So whether it's around fitness, and then all of a sudden it's the menstrual cycle, all of a sudden it's body image, and we're constantly climbing up that pyramid, realizing, oh, wow, there's a lot of other strategies that I can help them with. And eventually they come to a stage where they're like, cool, like I've learned all these skills. I'm able to resource this independently. I'm going to go on my own and do this. And you know what? Like as a coach, I find that so satisfying that they're able to go and venture out independently and do their own thing.
100%. That to me is truly the definition of proper coaching, I believe.
100%.
Because anyone can give you a plan. You can go and download a plan, like you said, from bodybuilding.com. You can get a plan from anyone, but to be truly coached is to be in a situation where you're learning and you're figuring out exactly, you know, the processes that work for you so you can apply those to your life long term.
Definitely. Yeah. You also made a really good point about the training programs as well, because it takes me back to many years ago with working with certain coaches where they would give you a program and that's it. Like, here's your program. You do the training. Where my latest coach, shout out to James, we probably finished coaching about a year ago. And similar to yourself, I had a back injury. And once I finished coaching with him, I was able to navigate what was working for me, what I was enjoying. And now I'm training pain-free, thankfully, because of all the skills that he was able to teach me.
That's amazing. I think that is where you found value in that coaching for you. And even that knowledge now will help you with your clients, because personal experience matters too when it comes to coaching. Yes, we can't rely on that to dictate how we coach someone, but it definitely helps. Like that experience for you, you can apply to now your clients as well.
Yeah, totally. With the type of training that you're doing right now, how is that preventing you from getting injured again?
With my training at the moment, so I've gone through a few different phases over the last 12 months. Actually, probably the last 2 years. I went from being in lockdown, trying to build my physique, then started with a new coach during that time as well. 12 months after that, continued to build, training hard. Intensity was phenomenal. It was just full steam ahead. And then from there, competed, went through the stages of competing with, the training intensity dipping. And I didn't injure my back though during that time, which was awesome. But went through the comp prep side of things. Coming out of that, my body was a mess. I felt extremely, I guess, sensitive to training. I felt that I couldn't contract muscles properly. I just found that the training post-comp for me was probably the hardest part of the process. And that's just with where my body was at in terms of being so depleted and so lean as well. So I really hated training the first few weeks. When most people enjoy it, they're like, oh yeah, I got more food. I felt shocking. I actually felt worse post-comp. So from there, I had to just take it really slow again, getting back into that training intensity. Now, training intensity for me, I feel that my body likes to push back a lot. I don't know about you, but you might feel like you're training really hard and then all of a sudden you're like, shit, my knees, my back. And it's like, I know I'm not necessarily getting old, but, we are getting old. I just feel like my body has been trying to resist me for some time in not just growing my physique. It's really hard for me to put on muscle, no matter how much food I'm eating, no matter how hard I'm training. It's been resisting me for some time. So for the last few weeks, I've had this knee pain and like this knee issue to the point where I'm reassessing all of my training again and going, how do I actually want to train? And because I don't have a comp in sight, I'm not specific about my physique goal in terms of this is the division I want to do, this is the federation I want to do. I'm just going to build my physique. I actually feel so much better. I feel like now I can look at training in a different light and feel more freedom to train how I want to train. And training intensity will always be there with this, with my training, but I'm not pushing against my body anymore. And that already feels so much better. So yeah, I think legs 3 days a week, your body starts to hate you after a while, so you can't keep doing that. What does your training look like at the moment?
It's so interesting that you mentioned this because I went through this stage myself towards the end of last year where I was literally in sort of like this battle with my body. I was wanting to hit certain strength goals and certain body composition goals, but there was so much resistance. I'm like, I want this, but my body's like, nah, let's not do this. And then eventually I literally just surrendered. I was just like, all right, I'm pushing way too hard. It's not working. Let's just change the narrative and start doing other like shit or exercises that I enjoy. So I started boxing. I started dancing again. And you know what? My body is just loving every fucking moment of it. And isn't this funny? Because I'm still weight training, but the weight training is more revolved about the performance for my dancing and for boxing. It's not necessarily to hit a certain number on the leg press, even though the numbers are increasing and, you know, intensity is still there, but there's less pressure that I'm putting on myself to hit a certain target.
And that in itself is going to allow your body to respond better to what you're doing, right? Because you're not creating this unnecessary stress that your body is obviously not able to handle.
Yeah.
And as much as I like to say that I'm not stressed, like I don't believe that my mind is stressed. Your body can be stressed even though your mind isn't stressed too. That's something I learned in prep. So I was like, I'm not stressed right now. My body was like, I hate you. So I think the resistance side of things, right? Like it takes you being able to look at your ego and go, okay, sit down for a second, because me pushing hard against my body was not getting me better results. It was actually making me more upset because I was like, I'm training so fucking hard. I'm eating all the food and I'm still not building. Like, I don't look like a bodybuilder right now. Like, why? And then I realized that my body was telling me something, and it's like, slow down a little bit. And you don't have to look at your physique from only a competitive goal. So that was like my biggest lesson post-comp, I think. It's like, how can you just train and love your body and like show love and compassion to your body outside of a competitive goal?
When that moment hit you, what are some of the other changes that you started adapting to life? Because you mentioned mentally you weren't stressed, but your body was like screaming for help.
I'll be completely real. The last few months have been a lot of changes for me, not just with my friendships and relationship, but the relationship with myself. Because I actually looked at, okay, why am I feeling this way about my bodybuilding goals? Like, why am I feeling this resistance? Why am I feeling anxious about this goal that made me so excited? I was so excited post-comp to build my legs up, not necessarily do WFF again, but it was like, I want wellness legs, you know, fighting against my genetics here, but that's exactly what I wanted for my physique. It's like, why am I feeling not connected to this goal? And then as these things started to unravel over the last few weeks, and I started to show myself love, and I took myself away from the competitive mindset, which is quite restrictive, mind you, because you're like, okay, I've got to eat this amount of food, and I've got to train these days of the week, and I've got to make sure I'm seeing progress. It's like, I started to show this love for myself, and it's like that's then seeped into other decisions that I've made in my life over the last few weeks, which have been hard, exceptionally hard, I won't lie. And it's with respect to my relationship as well. This is just the journey that I'm on now, and I have to go down this path. But it's very, I don't know how to explain it. I just feel more myself, which is shocking, because someone that takes my bodybuilding goals so seriously, to not feel restricted by a competitive goal, it feels very different. I feel more connected to myself in a way. Because I spent 6 years between 2017 show. So I would say the 2016 show that I did in ICN until last year, thinking that I had to make my mark in the competitive world in bodybuilding. Like, that's what I felt like I had to do. When I took a step back and I was like, is this actually what I want to do? Is this the impact that I want to have in this world? Is that the direction I want to go in? I realized that it's not. If I was going to be a genetically gifted bodybuilder, I probably would have been one already. You know what I mean? I think there's one thing to fight against your genetics, but then you have to also be very realistic. And I've been training hard probably for the last like 3 or 4 years. I'm still not a massive gal. So it's like, I think I just have to be real with myself.
Mm.
That's
It's
probably the hardest things though.
literally, you just took the words out of my mouth. It's such a challenging way to look at things because we're not wanting to let go of that identity that we've resembled our lives around, because we literally live and breathe fitness and health. So when you have that conversation with yourself, it's really hard and be like, okay, is this actually serving me? And is this going to serve a positive purpose and outcome for me? Or am I still just like pushing my head against the wall trying to achieve this goal? And too often people are still trying to force that outcome years on end, decades to be honest, and then one day the penny just drops and they're like, wow, like I should have done this 5 years ago.
I think you really nailed it there, because the people around us and the social media image when it comes to the bodybuilding aspect is what can keep a lot of people in that identity, because they're kind of fueling it, right? You know, you've got people being like, when's your next show? Oh, you play second, so you'll go again soon, won't you? And it's like the people around us, without us realizing, have an impact on how we think about our goals too. My coach sat there and was like, fuck yeah, like you can go and do this again and we can like fucking win. Am I going to go and do it just because he says that I can? I also spoke to one of the WFF pros too, and she's like, you could back this up. If you're healthy, you could back this up and do early this year. Would I do that just because a pro has told me that I can do it? That wasn't connecting with me. And that's how I knew I had to really sit with myself. You have to sit with yourself and go, what do I actually want? Take the ego out of it, take the social media out of it. What do you actually want? And it's really hard to do. You know, as I said, you've got people around you being like, fuck yeah, like you can go again, you can do it. People are always trying to tell us what we should do, but that's not going to get you, like, for instance, how lean I got, right? If someone was like, you can do this show, and they were telling me that I could do that show, I wouldn't have got that lean. I had to be the one to be like, this is my fucking show. I'm coming in peeled. This is my show. You have to own your decisions and you have to own your process. So if I competed this year, 100%, I wouldn't have been able to get that lean. I probably wouldn't want to go through the process. So chances are my body may not respond to the prep itself. You just don't know. You have to own it. Otherwise, you're not going to see the results that you want. So, firm believer in that.
And you made such a good point, because too often we'll take the opinions of others and then we'll place that pressure onto ourselves, and identifying, oh, we do have to compete. Oh, we do have to do this because they said X, Y, and Z. But like you said, if we're constantly taking other people's opinions, when do you come to your sense of self going, is this what I'm actually wanting to do? Or am I just taking on people's other opinions and advice to go ahead and compete again?
That's so true. I think I can see why it would, people that may be weak in those moments and are easily influenced by other people, are those that are not connected to their purpose and their reasoning for perhaps competing, right? So it's so easy for someone like that to then be influenced easily. And not just with that too, not just with competing, it's with anything, right? I think I hear a lot of girls that look great at the gym, for instance. One of my girlfriends, she looks sensational, and she gets people saying to her all the time, you can compete. Like, you would absolutely kill it. You look great competing. But she's not going to go and just do that. She's a very strong personality. She's amazing. This is my friend Maxie. She's got insane genetics. She looks amazing. And she's not going to go and just do that just because people around her being like, you can compete. But I think it's good knowing that, you know, you can go and do something, but you don't have to. And you be in control of making that decision. But we just have to remain connected to our purpose in our decision making. Otherwise, we'll never truly embody like what we should be achieving as well. It'd be like me being, oh yeah, I just want to be an injector and I'm going to have my business one day, but I'm not going to really give a fuck. Like, it doesn't work like that. You can't just float on into a goal and like not own it. That's just how I am.
Yeah, you made such a good point around the purpose side of things. And again, being easily influenced by other people, we tend to lose that clarity of exactly what it is that we're wanting to work for. And that goes back to the health and fitness goals, people pushing, oh, do bodybuilding. And you're like, oh, maybe I should. But then deep down inside, you're like, oh no, I actually want to do powerlifting. But you put the powerlifting goal on the side because people have told you should do bodybuilding. It's like, where do you draw the line, and how can, as we mentioned previously, it's putting yourself first, going, does this actually align with what I'm wanting to do? And if not, let's not take the opinions of others and literally stay focused on that goal that you're wanting to achieve.
Absolutely. And I think that when it comes to, especially when it comes to like the fitness aspect as well, oh my God, my brain's like after legs, I'm like, more caffeine and 2 energy drinks today already. Oh, oh God. Yeah, I think it's so important to be remaining connected to your purpose in everything in life, honestly. That's what I meant to say.
Let's talk about purpose, because we've brought it up several times now, and I want us to switch our conversation from health and fitness to business and finding the purpose within what we actually love doing and doing it good and consistently. Now, for those who don't know your background in business, would you mind explaining to them what it is that you're currently doing? And let's dive deep into what it actually looks like and how you got to where you're at right now.
Oh my gosh, how much time do we have? I feel like I should start this part of the conversation about business off by saying maybe where I've come from with business, because I have posted a little bit about my journey in terms of where I've started and, as far back as the nursing side of things. But this really goes back to when I first moved out of home and I did embark on my nursing journey. But that's pretty much where it started. So I was 22, 23, just moved out to the city, and I was working nursing full time. And it was all new to me moving out of home. I was on this new journey of being a nurse and living somewhere new. And I knew that I liked nursing, but I wasn't extremely passionate about nursing. I loved working in theatre. That's my background. I worked in theatre, and it was good. I loved being hands-on with a surgeon, very hands-on person. So it was like, yeah, I can do the scalpel, and that was really good for me to, build routine as well. So shift work, it wasn't shift work. It was like Monday to Friday hours, which was really good. Could fit in training, but they were really long days. So that's when I was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, getting my training done. I had done a show at this point, but it was a better structure for me working at this place that I was at, working in theatre, so I could then focus on my next bodybuilding goal. From there, I felt so disconnected from my work life. I was really anxious at work. I'd just not be mentally present at work. I'd be in theatre thinking about photography or just thinking about other things, and I just wasn't present at work, and it was a really big problem for me. And then as I started to enjoy training more and more, I started to realize that the personal training aspect to me was interesting. And I signed up and did a course whilst I was still doing nursing. Then I started training people every week. Freaking loved it. It was so much fun. I was very immature when it came to the business aspect. So I didn't have a good structure in place for that to work with nursing. So I found that I was almost like a split personality. I was nurse Talia, trying to manage personal training Talia, and it was a bit much for me, and I just didn't have good organization skills. So I think that's when I decided that I needed to make a decision. I needed to be one or the other. I couldn't be between both because mentally it wasn't serving me. And now I'd come a long way with my anxiety at this point, but I hadn't truly sat with it and worked on myself. So after I did that, I stopped personal training, and I said, okay, I'm going to pursue the cosmetic injectable side of things because I love being creative. I don't want my nursing degree and nursing skills to go to waste. and then embarked on the cosmetic side of things. And I knew from day dot, I sat in there and I sat down and I was learning everything about anti-wrinkle and fillers. I was so fascinated. It's the whole perception of treating with the anatomy and gaining aesthetic results. It was me. I just knew. I had confidence in myself, and I haven't been able to have that in anything. Even with personal training, it was like you see everyone else doing things a certain way and you're like doubting how you're doing things and training people. And it's like, I didn't feel that confident in myself in that industry. Whereas this industry, it's like I just knew. It's like I knew this was going to fulfill me creatively. It was going to fulfill my business mindset. And I was going to continue to want to learn, because that's so important in an industry. You probably find that in yours as well, that you have to be willing to learn and willing to adapt and willing to do new things. And that's how you evolve in business in the area that you're in, right?
Yeah, totally.
I think that was truly where my life started. So the last 4 years have been focused on building up Glow and being the best injector that I can be, but also learning how to manage the business mindset and the business aspect as well, because you can't do that with insane amount of self-doubt, right? That's when that imposter syndrome will come in play. And I think to a degree, we all kind of feel like that at times.
Yeah.
But if you're filled with too much self-doubt, you'll be poor, you're bad at decision-making, you'll make bad decisions and eat yourself up about it instead of moving forward and finding different processes. And you just constantly see the negative in everything. And it's like this needed to happen at this point in my life. I was a nurse previously for 3 years, first before starting injectables. Sure, I could have gone and done it straight after, but maybe I wouldn't have survived. Maybe my mindset back then, it wouldn't have been in a situation where I wanted to learn and wanted to be a student again, and I guess be humbled by new beginnings as well. So the last 4 years have been amazing with my inject journey. The apparel that we started as well was started during lockdown, and it's very much still a passion project, and I love doing it. It's also my way of connecting with people in a different creative element as well. So I do enjoy it. What do you think of the designs? Because I feel like there's been like alternative stuff. There's been like more loungewear, comfort kind of stuff. I think I want to go in the more alternative way. But what do us fitness people kind of want? And then it's like, do I want to continue on doing fitness stuff? What do you think?
So here's the interesting part, because you started the conversation going, you were so disconnected at nursing at one point, but now you found your passion with the cosmetic side of things. And now when we're doing like the clothing brand, it's just like, all right, well, I really want to do the fitness stuff, but like, do people want fitness stuff? And I find it comes into this, like this yo-yo of decision-making going, I want to please my audience and give them what they want. But at the same time, it's just like, how can I please myself as well? Like, am I just putting out stuff out there for people, or am I putting stuff out there because this is something that I actually truly enjoy, and whoever buys it and enjoys it? So I'm going to say that I'm loving both ways. I'm loving the loungewear, but I'm also loving the alternative side of things, because that, I truly believe, it brings out a lot of your personality. It brings off this like wild sense of like creativity that you have, where no one's going to be able to do that same thing, because it comes from your creative mind. And I feel this is where we're able to catch and capture a certain audience who does relate more to what you're doing.
And this goes also back to the purpose talk, right? Because that is exactly where the purpose lies behind doing the State 19.
Yeah.
I didn't plan on that being anything more than putting out apparel that, people like and connect to. I never planned on that being solely my business. The inject world for me is exactly where I need to be mentally and physically with my business right now. But that is my way of connecting with people. I'm remaining to, I guess, connected to my purpose, right? So that side of things has been really hard. I think I probably doubt myself more with the apparel than I do with my inject stuff, to be honest. But there's more risk involved with inject, go figure. But It is really hard. And that's why I like to know what other people think of State 19, because I see it as being a way to put out designs that are unique, put out things that people can, I guess, maybe be inspired by. But I know that it very much well can't just be inspirational pieces, but statement pieces more so. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a statement to it, that's for sure.
I think that's the direction I'll continue to head in as well, because I don't want to be another gym apparel brand or another, Do You Even, another Muscle Nation. That wasn't the purpose in doing the apparel. It was to do things a little bit differently and just be a bit of a standout. So I guess my direction with that, I'm a little bit unknown of what's kind of next, but my sole focus right now is on building up my inject business and just being the best injector I can be. I think these things take so much more time than we think. It took me 4 years, right? It's probably 3.5 years to fully actually feel comfortable to open up a business with the amount of overheads that I have and survive. And you don't just do that in 12 months. I don't know of anyone doing that in 12 months with a service-based business, right? Reputation takes a long time to build up. So that should be your focus when it comes to the service industry. Yes, you could say that also relates to a product brand as well, but the service industry is so completely different. It's a completely different world. So I'm learning from both aspects, having an e-commerce brand and then also having the service industry brand as well. And even though both have been able to help me with my business mindset, I do both completely different. But I love the challenge. It's really fun.
Let's talk about the buildup of the business, because not long ago you opened a Q&A on your Instagram, and a lot of people were asking for you to elaborate a little bit more about your business and how did you get so lucky to build this brand, and oh my God, you must be so rich to open this business. And I want us to be real with our audience right now and make them realize that no one was handed anything, and you literally grinded and sacrificed so much to where you're at right now. So I would love for you to, express a few points to our audience.
I want to start this kind of conversation off too by saying I hope this is taken as a sort of humble approach, right? I very much am about now in my journey right now, accepting and honoring your successes, because I haven't previously done that, which has only added to me encouraging more self-doubt in my life. So when this post discussion came up, my thoughts were very much to explain to people that I have really sacrificed. I literally worked my ass off to be able to afford this place and the fit out and everything in here. The couches that I'm looking at were literally like a month's pay. Like, I can't even begin to explain how those things came about. In terms of, it all started really with my mindset, not the financial aspect. It was the mindset behind it. I was working for 2 other different companies with businesses with injectables, and I kept saying to myself, I'm not motivated right now. Why am I not motivated? I love my job so much. Like, this does not motivate me. What do I need to do? And at that time I was like in lockdown, and I said to my partner at the time, I want to have a warehouse. And I'm just putting that out there in the universe. I just said it out loud. I was like, okay, I've said it now. What do I need to do? And then I started diving into it, and I just thought, there's no reason why I can't do this. So it all started with the mindset shift. From there, I worked my absolute ass off. I cannot tell you, there was one week where I had to pay for plaster for this place, right? So everything here is all framework that we've put in. This is a completely empty warehouse. All the nooks in here, all the painting, all the skirting boards, everything like that. All of that was from, I wouldn't say minimum wage income. That's quite, I wouldn't say that. I just say I had a reasonable income at the time, but I was working my fucking ass off. And there were really, really hard weeks, like really, really hard weeks. When I paid for the plus for this place, that was, I guess, a reality check for me that I'd definitely taken on too much at that time, but I just made it work. I just worked harder. I was doing PT in here because we had some of the gym equipment, and I just kind of made it work. But I think it's very easy for people to maybe see what I've done here and think it's all been, my partner who helped me build this, it's all been him, or I've had like someone come in and like fund me to do this, or I've gotten business loans. I literally lived paycheck to paycheck in order to do this. And I just kept working harder. When there was really hard weeks, worked harder. I can't even begin to explain. Like, I'm even trying to think now back to how I did it all. I don't even know. It's the apparel also too has been an investment. So anything that I've invested in hasn't generated money for me to be like, cool, I've made this amount of money to be able to go and spend on this. I've literally done what anyone else does and work a job, work my ass off. I didn't see my friends for a good amount of time too. And that was me. I had to go MIA. I had to just shut myself off from the world for a bit and just grind. And that was really hard emotionally. But it worked. I think some people they think there's an easy way other than you just need to work harder. Sometimes you do have to work 3 jobs. Like right now with the world how it is, I think people are so easily falling into the mindset of, okay, interest rates, X, Y, Z, cost of living. There was a time where like generations have had to work a few jobs, right? Why are we wanting to just take the easy way out? I just don't get that kind of mindset. It's like if you're suffering or struggling, like there's always another way. So I've just had that with building the clinic and it worked. I still can't believe it. Like sitting in here, I'm like, this is so cool that everything in here that I own, it's mine. But it's only going to work if you're willing to work for it, right? As I said, my overheads are quite expensive. I have a lot of money going out, and you have to be able to meet those demands. It's great to have a dream, but you have to be realistic as well. If I didn't have the client base that I had, I wouldn't have started doing this because I would have been like, okay, maybe another year later.
Mm-hmm. And you made such a good point about taking that sacrifice and doing it, because too often, as you mentioned, some people will feel a little bit too comfortable and not wanting to take that risk, or again, that self-doubt creeping in. However, I do feel as if, yes, people do tend to sit a lot within their comfort and then tend to point the finger at those who are doing really well, but not realizing about the sacrifices and the work that they have put in. Like yourself, working a couple of jobs before you actually opened your own place, and then placing all that money back into your business instead of going away for holidays or going full monk mode, not seeing your friends, not speaking to your family, not going out. And for a lot of people, that is quite challenging and scary, because as humans, we love connection. And if I turn around or you turn around to your friends going, I'm not going out tonight, or whatever it is, some people either get offended by you and they're like, oh, you're always working, they're always projecting their own fucking fears onto us. But at the end of the day, if like we're really passionate about something, we will do everything in our power to get there.
I think also too, in situations where other people may be offended by your disciplines and your choice to work hard and what that looks like, it can be quite triggering for people that just don't have that mindset, right? Like it's easy for someone to sit there and be like, oh my God, this person's working so much, or they won't take time off, if they can't relate in their own life. And it's so interesting that because of how hard I pushed myself, right, that taught me that there is actually no limitation for me, because I've already exceeded what I thought I was capable of workload wise. So when it came to me opening the business, I opened that and I started prep. And it was the first 3 months of opening my business that I was in prep. And I was the leanest I've ever been. But it's because I showed myself how hard I could work. So going into a comp prep whilst the clinic was built, just working away, that was easy. That was the easy part. So I think sometimes we have to really push past what we believe to be our limitations and allow ourselves to take those risks. Just like you mentioned before about risks, right? Name one business owner that hasn't taken a risk. Being a business owner is taking a risk. Going down the business journey is taking many risks in order to get to where you want. I'm probably too much of a risk taker. I'm more like, I'll worry about it later kind of thing. So that got me in not necessarily trouble. It more just made a lot more pressure on myself financially, because I was like, I'll worry about it later. And then it's like dealing with that, I'm dealing with more stress than I probably needed to. In hindsight, probably should have saved for the clinic space to do everything all at once. But I was like, I'll just make it work. And I guess that pressure then pushed me to get it done quicker or get it done, I don't know, in a different kind of way. I probably salvaged it a little bit more because I was like, oh, okay, like I've had to work exceptionally hard for like 7 months of building it, when I could have just worked another 12 months, saved up all my money, did it all at once. But I don't regret any of that, because it really does teach you a different type of resilience.
Yeah, I love that. And I hope our listeners are having a little bit of a think about this, whether they are business owners or whether they're fitness influencers or PTs. It's just like, where are you right now within your life and business, and how can you start adapting more of that growth mindset to take those risks and really sit within yourself going, am I really happy with what I'm doing right now? And if not, what changes do you need to make? Because at the end of the day, it's totally up to you where you're wanting to take your life and your business. Like, no one's pulling a gun to your head going, you have to do this for the rest of your life. Like, you have the choice to do whatever it is that you want to do. And that's the beauty about it. However, as you mentioned, they're too scared, or the self-doubt creeps in, and they end up staying in this like mediocre positions where they don't feel fulfilled. And that's and to be honest, in my eyes, it's just so sad to see that happening too often.
I see it a lot actually with clients or people stay in these jobs that they hate. I could never understand it. I think that shows the level of lack of trust maybe they have in themselves and their work ethic, perhaps. I know it's very rich of me to say that, because some people feel like, compelled to stay in a situation with their work because of financial reasons. If they've got a lot of commitments, they've got children, they've got families to look after. I 100% get that and can respect that. But if you can't trust yourself and your work ethic to make something work, or to pick yourself up and find a way, then you'll never trust yourself. If injecting hadn't worked for me, I would have found another way. I quit my job, nursing, completely quit. Didn't have any animosity with my workplace at all. I just didn't also enjoy working with the type of energy that was around me. So I didn't give myself the option to go back. I was like, I'm never going back to this place. That was in theatre, and it was, some of the people were great, but some of them were a bit negative energy. Not for me. But I didn't give myself an option B. But if I hadn't gone down the injecting path, I would have just found another way. I just trusted myself. I quit my job, had no income, and I was trusting that this was going to work, or that I was going to work hard enough to make it work. But I also didn't surround myself with people that would encourage me to be in a place of self-doubt. I didn't have people around me being like, oh, like, you sure you want to do that? Because people around you can dictate, as we said before, how you think about yourself and your decisions. I told people what I was doing. I didn't go and ask anyone and say, hey, what do you think of me doing this? I went and told them. I told my partner at the time too. I said, I'm quitting my job and I'm doing injecting. I didn't ask him for permission. I just said, this is what I'm doing. Now, that language with the people around you, it gives more confidence, right? And they're going to take that and be like, okay, they've already made the decision. How can I support them? That's what a good friend would do, or good people around you would do. If we're constantly seeking reassurance from the people around us, we'll never make the right decisions for ourselves. So that was a really big lesson that I learned then as well. Own your decisions and be in control, and you'll have much more confidence for it.
You made Such a good point. And you literally hit the nail on the head with that one. It's not asking for reassurance from other people. It's actually reassuring your own self-trust, going, this is the decision I'm making. Let's go 100% into it. If it works, awesome. If it doesn't, hey, go the different path. And you know what? That's the beauty about life. It's not just one way or the highway. Like there's hundreds to thousands of opportunities out there that you can, explore. And that's the beauty about it.
And I think that that's beautiful in itself, is that the more trust, I know it's a bit woohoo for me to say trust the universe and trust the timing of things, but if you actually allow yourself to sit with that and just not just trust in yourself, but trust that things will happen as they need to, you'll manage a lot better when things, we say like shit hits the fan. When things go wrong, you'll handle yourself so much better because you'll be like, okay, how do I handle this, rather than sitting in the negative. When I first built this place, I was 100% confident that I could actually get a permit for here, right? I signed off the lease in lockdown still, and I was like, cool, I've done all my research. I 100% can open up an injectables, a medical business in a business park in a zone 1 commercial. And then I had conversations with the council, and they tried to say to me that, oh no, you can't do that. I'd already just signed the lease, I'd already paid the deposit, and I don't think I ate for 24 hours. I was extremely stressed. And I was like, this is actually really interesting. But not once did I say, I regret getting the warehouse. I just kept thinking, okay, if it doesn't work with injecting, I've already signed the lease, I will make it work for the apparel. We'll just go full in with the apparel, or we'll do a gym. So I was already thinking, okay, worst case scenario, how do I handle this? Ended up being the person that I spoke to was completely wrong, and I could 100% open up my business, 100% could get a permit, which I have. But it was just a really interesting time when I was being challenged. I challenged my way of thinking to be like, okay, worst case scenario, what do we do? So those situations really do teach you a lot about yourself, and learning how to deal with what's deemed as being a negative situation actually is a good challenge to have. We need to be challenged because we need our mindset to be challenged in order to, I guess, go further in life with our mindset and develop in that way.
I want us to finish with one question that I have for you to give our audience a bit of a open way of navigating change and challenge. What would be your, I don't want to say number one because there's probably like hundreds of them, but what is a powerful way that we can leave our audience with of how to navigate change and challenging times?
This is a really hard one to answer, not because I don't have an answer, but because what I'm going through right now has been pretty much this. Going through a breakup is exceptionally hard, and even friendship breakdowns and business stress, it's all very challenging. I think this is where self-love really has to come in. As corny as that sounds, you will be able to navigate through those really big challenges in life with more self-love, believe it or not. I think you have to be able to show yourself compassion, because when you can't turn to anyone, when you are internally stressed or you're going through a situation and it's really eating at you, if you can't turn to yourself for support, who can you turn to? It's easy to say, if you've got parents and you've got friends that are supportive, to help you through these trying times, but no one is you, and you have to be able to connect with yourself to move forward. And that is very relevant to what I've been going through the last few months. So because I've been able to show myself more love, I've been able to look at myself, I'm talking to myself differently. I love my physique. Even though I'm a few kilos above stage weight, I love myself so much more now. And that is helping me get through this whole process for me. So I think that's it. And this is a different, softer side to Taliha that you're perhaps seeing as well. but it's taken me a long time to connect with myself in that way. But in doing so, I'm able to navigate these challenges in my life. So being softer as a female is not a weakness. It allows you to shift in and out of this masculine and feminine energy as you need to. So that's probably my biggest advice when it comes to navigating these challenges.
I love it. Literally.
Hope I answered that okay.
Yeah. To be honest, I think every human who's listening to this right now is going to take away the part where they need to start trusting themselves a little bit more and showing that self-compassion as well. And like you said, if we're constantly in that masculine energy, go, 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 where are you adapting that feminine side of yourself? Where are you softening? Where are you enjoying life? Because if you're so in your head all the time, how can you love yourself within the body? And again, it comes down to that balance of those two energies.
Would even love if we could dive into this for a few minutes as well, because this being also yourself being a business owner and having big goals for your business, this is where we're being challenged as females, is the feminine and masculine energy, right? Where masculine energy is very beneficial in our training performance or stepped into that kind of let's fucking go attitude, right? That attitude also does definitely help in your business aspect, but is that then going to translate into your relationships? Not necessarily. As a female, how do you feel about women embracing their more masculine energy in business? And do you think that there needs to be, I guess, kind of like boundaries with business and women so that we can still stay connected to our feminine energy?
There's context to this because it's such a big topic that's going around lately. And this is something obviously that I'm practicing myself as well, because coming out of my own masculine energy, I've noticed how very harsh I was on myself when I was very in my masculine. And like you mentioned with fitness, you know, when we're looking at fitness and health, it has a very masculine energy to it, like strength training, macro tracking, bodybuilding competitions. That's all masculine stuff that, you know, our body's doing. So when we're looking at the business side of things, of course, we're going to be so impacted by a masculine energy because it's looking at criteria for certain goals or like achieving certain, you know, revenues or building clinics, like all this stuff. So I personally don't have the answer to that because that's still something that I'm personally working on. However, what I can share is when I do notice myself being so critical of my work ethic and my business, I really sit back and reflect of how far I've come, and it really places me back into my feminine energy to really make myself realize and give myself a little bit more self-compassion, going, wow, I've achieved quite a lot. How can I pull back and start enjoying more of this? And that's the more of that feminine side. It's like having fun, being creative, you know, surrendering to it, not having to work 24/7, actually taking a fucking day off instead of working 7 days straight.
Absolutely. It's like my word right now to describe feminine energy for myself is flow. I need to have flow. If I wake up one day and I cannot fucking switch my brain onto work, I'm going to flow with my day. And that is so powerful for me because I'm learning that by flowing more, anxiety is less. I'm less anxious because I'm, as you mentioned, less self-critical. If I don't fucking get a task done, I don't get it done. But I'm flowing more with myself and my needs and my energy for where it needs to be. And I am so self-critical in my bodybuilding goals that I wasn't enjoying my physique, no matter how hard I worked, wasn't enjoying my process or my progress. And since I am now, me personally with my bodybuilding goals, I'm loving myself more, loving my physique. I'm seeing changes. My hamstrings don't fucking grow. And for some reason, I'm seeing them grow and I'm not doing much else different. But it's just like that connection with yourself is so important. And learning to be less self-critical, especially as a female in bodybuilding or in the fitness realm, it is so important. So we can actually love our body and love our physique. And we'll get a lot further with our fitness goals by doing so. Absolutely.
And I love the fact that you also mentioned to being a little bit more in flow, because once we're able to surrender into that, guess what? You'll start building more self-trust. You'll have a greater intuition, because intuition and self-trust exist together. If you don't go by that gut feeling, where, to be honest, let's state a fact that most of us don't, because we have that self-doubt. But intertwining those together and bringing that up to, like, you know, that higher level, that's when we're able to connect better with ourselves too.
And in the same turn, with what you just said as well, a lot of the people that we look after are females.
Yeah.
Right? So if we are in our feminine self when we need to be and connecting with ourselves like that, we're going to be more approachable for the people that we're looking after, which is so important. And this is where the journey started for me, because I realized that it was really hard for me to connect with other females, not because I don't want to trust other females, but because I was closing myself off. I was really closing myself off from communicating and connecting with other females. And I was really hyper aware of that. But why is this? Like, I love people. I love, you know, my females coming in for treatment and I'm like, I'm vibing. Why am I holding myself back from trusting in relationships with other females? Now I just feel completely different. And I think that's going to help my business, just like it would help with yours. And that's going to allow other women to trust us with our services.
Yes, absolutely.
so
so powerful.
All the stuff that happens when you're not focused on a competitive goal, right? Yeah. Like, this is why it's so important for me to not be in a prep anytime soon, as much as I fucking love to. Like, every part of me would love to just go and smash it. But this is a journey where I'm at with what I'm doing right now, personally.
I love it. So good. Taliha, babe, thank you so much for jumping on today's episode. It has been...
Thank you for having me. I could keep talking to you all. I could literally keep talking to you all day. Thank you so much for having me. It's been like a pleasure to talk about this stuff. And I hope that I've always had a hard time like articulating or being able to communicate these things properly. So this is forcing me to be in a position to do that and to hopefully come across the right way with everything we're talking about.
Being open and vulnerable. And guess what? That comes from that feminine energy.
It's something that I'm so not used to, but I absolutely feel like we need to push ourselves to do that 100%.
Yeah, definitely embracing it more. Well, girls, if you enjoyed today's podcast, please make sure that you screenshot it, tag us at the Women's Fitness Academy, tag myself, tag Taliha, and then till next time, let's embrace all aspects of a feminine and let's redirect our purpose. If you're feeling a little bit stuck, like really go back to your drawing board and going, cool, what changes do I need to make?